Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we will see how you can set up masters and their opening balances in Deskera books. By masters, I mean products, customers, vendors, and chart of accounts. Let's start with chart of accounts or ledgers. We click on accounting and chart of account. You will notice there are default chart of accounts already present. You can start with these or you can start adding your own. If you want to manually create a chart of account, click on add. Select the account type. Let's select expense. You can key in the unique ledger code. You can key in the name. You can select the tax description. If TDS is applicable, you can enable this, or you can click on save. This saves the chart of account. You also have the option to import them in bulk. For that, simply click on import. You can download the sample file and start importing. Let's look at how you can import. Let's open up the sample file. The columns that you see are the same as you saw on the add form. You can key in the code, the account name, description, account group, if tax is applicable, and the currency. You can key in the names. Let's key in the account group as expense for this. Let's copy this description. Let's keep it as expenses itself. Let's update the description here as well. Let's save this. Let's try and import this now. Let's click on browse and fetch this file. File has been uploaded. Let's click on next. On this screen, you can match the headers that are there in the Excel with the system headers. So even if your Excel contains a different heading, you can always map it. Let's click on next. You get to see a snapshot of the data. You can also make changes over here. If there are any errors, they are also highlighted over here. You can change them, else click on submit. When we click on submit, you will notice these ledgers or chart of accounts have already been created. So this way you can import multiple chart of accounts and be up and running as far as the ledgers are concerned. Next, let's look at contacts. This is the area where you will create all your customers and all your vendors. In order to add a contact manually, simply click on add contact. You can key in the name. You can key in the sequence format. Now, if you wish to maintain a different sequence format for your vendors, you can click on custom number format and add a prefix. Let's say V for vendor. Add a separator. Let's have 4 digits. You can add a suffix as well. Let's click on save. You can choose the sequence format at the time of creating the contact. You can key in the email address, PAN number. Under accounting, you need to key in the payment terms, that is the credit term that you allow, and a GST treatment type. So depending on whether the contact is regular, unregistered consumer, or SEZ, you can select this. Let's select registered for now. We'll key in the GSTIN. The customer type and the vendor type, depending on whether you are creating a customer or a vendor. If TDS is also applicable on this particular contact, so in the case of supplier, if TDS is applicable, you need to check mark this, key in the TAN number, the deducted type. If there are any other settings that you require, that is non-deduction or lower deduction, you can also key in these details. Let's go to addresses. You can specify the address. Postal code. and you can save the contact. So this is how you can manually add contacts. If you also have multiple contacts, let's say you have 300 or 400 suppliers and 400 or 500 customers, you can also import them directly using an Excel format. Simply click on import, download the sample file and start importing. Let's see how this can be done. Let's open up the sample file. So this is the sample file for contacts. You will notice most of the fields are the same that we have seen on the contact form. Simply need to populate this based on the details for your customers and suppliers. The sequence code, contact name, currency, email ID, the various receivable and payable accounts, the GST and taxation types, address details, etc. Once this is done, you can save this and now we can import this file. Let's see how we can do that. Let's go back to the product. Let me upload this file. Let me select this. I'll click on next. You again get the option for mapping the field in the Excel to the Deskera fields. So in case you have a file that has different headers from what the headers are in Deskera, you can always map them. If this is okay, you click on next. Now you can choose whether you want to only add new records or you want to update existing records or both. So this will basically update any details with the existing records. You can choose the behavior in case of duplicates. You can reject or import the duplicate rows. In case of invalid values, you can define whether you want to reject the entire row, reject the invalid value, or add the value in dropdown. In case there are any errors or any mistakes, they are highlighted over here. You can also correct them from here. If this is okay, you can click on submit. Once you click on submit, the import process starts. This is done. You will notice all the contacts that were there in the Excel file have been populated over here. So this way you can quickly either create a contact manually or import all the contacts from an Excel file. The next thing that we will look at is products or services. Let's click on products. From this area, you can create the various products or stock items and also the services that you deal with. Again, there are two options. First is you can create your products and services manually or you can import them. Let's look at the first process. Let's click on create product. Now in case you're creating products, you need to select goods. If you're creating services, simply click on services. Under products, you have option of creating tracked, non-tracked and bill of materials. Tracked products are usually the ones for which you want to track inventory. Non-tracked are the ones that you want to, let's say, buy or also sell or consume, but you do not want to track the inventory. These are consumables. Let's key in a name. You can specify the barcode as well, and you can scan this barcode and key in the invoices or the purchase orders and bills. You can key in the description, the HSN code. We've already added the default HSN codes. In case you want to add your own HSN code, you can always click on add HSN code. UQC. You can define whether the product is taxable or non-taxable. In case you are selecting a service, you can choose whether TDS is applicable on the service or not. Under the accounting tab, you can choose the default purchase and sales account that will get impacted. You can key in a purchase price or sales price. You can also define the default ledgers that will get impacted whenever you create a sales or a purchase return. Under ITC adjustment, if there are any products or services for which, let's say, RCM is applicable, you can simply select RCM from here. We will look at these use cases in the tutorial wherein we discuss the purchase. Under inventory, you need to select the unit of measurement, the default cost of goods sold account, inventory account, and stock adjustment account. In case you want to define the reorder level, you can define the reorder level as well. the typical reorder quantity that you want to order every time. If there's a preferred vendor, you can select that as well. In case you want to enable multiple schema, you can enable this and create multiple schema. So this is when you want to have multiple unit of measurements, like one box equal to 100 unit or one carton equal to 1000 units. You can define the opening quantity and the opening valuation. A default warehouse is always selected. You can click on save. Another thing is when you want to define the product sequence number. There is one sequence that is pre-created. You can key in a manual number, or you can create your own custom number format by clicking here. You can define the prefix, the suffix, the separator, and how many digits you want. Let's click on save. As soon as you click on save, the product gets created. Now let's see how we can import the products. In order to do that, let's click on import. When you're importing, you need to select whether you want to import tracked or non-tracked products, or do you want to import BOM products. BOM products are the ones that you typically want to manufacture or assemble. Let's look at the sample file for this. We click on next. You can download the sample file and start populating it. Let me open the sample file. This is the sample file. This contains the same set of columns that were there in the product form. You can define the sequence code, product name, type, and various other parameters. Once you've populated this list, you can start importing it. Let's save this and let's start importing this. Let's go back. Let me browse and upload this file. The file is uploaded. Let's click on next. On this screen, you can again map the columns that are there in the Excel with the Descara headers. Once this data is okay, you can click on next. You again have the option of deciding what happens when you have the duplicate records, what happens if you want to update existing records or add new records, or what is the behavior that you want in case of invalid inputs. All the data is highlighted over here. You can view these records. In case you want to edit any of these options, you can simply click over here and edit this. In case there are any invalid records, the system highlights them over here. If the data is correct, you can simply click on submit. Let's click on submit. You would notice that the products have been imported. If you want to view what is the status for the import file, if there are any products that got rejected, simply go to settings. Under settings, we have something called as import log. All the files that get imported are shown over here. Let's go back to products. So the products have been imported. Let's also look at BOM products. Under goods, there is something called as bill of materials. So if you have any particular product that is an assembly of components, you can mark it as bill of materials. Under bill of materials, you need to specify the various components. You can start selecting from the various products that have been created, how many quantities required per unit. This defines the BOM, and you can consume this at a later stage to manufacture this product. So that is how you create a BOM product. Now once our masters have been imported, next let's look at how we can import or set up the opening balances for the various masters. For that, let's go to accounting. Under accounting, we go to opening balances. You can set up the opening balances for your chart of accounts, inventory, and your contacts from this area. Now again, you have the option to either manually key in the opening balances for your accounts. So for instance, we can key in the value directly over here under debit or credit depending on the nature of the account, or you can also import this. So let's see how we can import it. We click on import. You again have the sample file. Let's open up the sample file. So this is the sample file. Now as you can see, you need to enter the account code, the debit or credit opening balance, and the exchange rate. So you need to pick up the account codes from the chart of account list that is given under accounting. Once you've done that, you can save this Let's go back to the product. Let's import this file now. All right, we have browsed the file and imported it over here. Let's click on next. This is again the mapping of the headers. Click on next. In case you want to edit anything or if there are any invalid records, you can always update it directly from here. We click on confirm. Now the file has been imported. Let's go back to accounting, opening balances. Now you will notice that the opening balances for the accounts have already been added over here. In case you're manually adding, you need to simply add the value and click on save. Let's move on to products. So you can define the opening balances for the products directly by typing in over here, or you can import this. You also have the option to define the opening balances when you're manually creating the products. Let's see how we can import this. Let's click on import. We again have a download sample file option. Let's look at the sample file. So this is the sample file. You will notice that you have the option of product code, the opening valuation, that is the total valuation of the opening inventory, and the opening quantity. Let's change these values. Let's say 50 quantity, 1500. Let's save this. Let's go back to the product. Let's upload this file. It's uploaded. Let's click on next. You can map the headers. Let's click on next. This will give you a snapshot of the file that is being imported. You can again edit the values from here, or in case there are any invalid records, you can see them and correct them. If all is fine, we click on confirm. The opening balances have been uploaded. Let's go back to accounting, opening balances. Let's click on inventory, and you will notice that the balances have been added. Next, let's move on to opening balances for contacts. Now, opening balance for contacts is either the bills for which you have to make the payment to the supplier, or invoices for which payment is yet to come from the customers. To create them manually, click on create, choose opening sales invoice or opening bill. Let's select opening sales invoice, select the contact. Key in the order reference number, document number, that's going to be the sales invoice. The amount, you can key in the date. This date is usually before the book's beginning date. You can key in the memo and click on save. Once this is saved, it gets updated over here. If you want to import, let's click on import. Let's select import sales invoice. You can download the sample file. Let's look at the sample file. Now the sample file again contains the same set of columns. You can update these details as per the contact code, the document number, amount, due date, etc. Click on save. Once this is saved, we'll go back to the system. Let's import this. Let's select this file, click on next. You can map the headers, click on next. If there are any changes that you need to make, or if there are any invalid records, you can make the changes from here. Else we click on confirm. Once this is done, the system updates the message. Let's go back to accounting, opening balances. Let's go to contacts, and you will notice that the file that we imported has been updated over here. Similarly, you can create opening bills and also import them. So this way you can set up your masters, create them manually or import them, and also set up the opening balances either manually or import them using Excel format.